Cronenbourg 564. Sponsor du Tour de France.
During 500 years, the Puy de Fou has seen many battles of a different kind, but none like yesterday, when 150,000 spectators watched Miguel Indurain win the opening prologue to the Tour de France. Yes, Big Mig is back, and back to win his third straight Tour de France. Hello again and welcome to Lucon, the Tour de France now facing up to its first full road racing stage. We've moved not too far away from the Puy de Fou to the beautiful town of Lucon. The ride is now facing more than 5 hours in the saddle. Well, I wonder what they're thinking this morning after that marvellous performance by Miguel Indurain yesterday. It was done in front of 150,000 spectators, and you know, with the weather like this, I think we could expect to see that double on the long ride today. Indurain now leads the Tour de France by 8 seconds ahead of his arch-rival Alex Zülle. In third place is the world champion Gianni Bugno, 11 seconds back, and notably Tony Rominger of Switzerland is fifth, 14 seconds off the pace. That was a great ride by him in a prologue time trial. Of the others, Claudio Chiappucci not too far away in 8th. Stephen Roach rode his last prologue time trial because this is his last Tour de France. He finished well in 10th slot. Eric Breukink a little bit disappointed in 13th. Of the two British riders, well, they didn't try too hard, not surprisingly so. Miller finished 140th and Sean Yates was 147th. Now, yesterday's prologue time trial bore an uncanny resemblance to the one a year ago in San Sebastian, Spain, where Indurain also finished just ahead of Alex Zülle. He went on, of course, to win the Tour de France, and this is how he did it. Last year, the genial giant came as close as he could to a home win when he opened the Tour de France in San Sebastian, Spain. It was the prologue time trial that could only have one winner. Well, the crowd is straight over the barriers, the back of the barriers, it's going to be desperately close. Into the last 50 metres and on the line, Indurain has won the prologue of the Tour de France on Spanish soil. Indurain had won in style, 100 kilometres from his home. The pleasure of the win was plain for all to see. Next day, the leader passed to birthday boy Alex Zülle. Then it passed on to the Frenchman, Richard Virenque. And with the race still in France, there were more home celebrations with teammate Pascal Lino taking over at Bordeaux. The French youngsters were leading the way. Lino led Indurain by over 6 minutes, and frankly, Indurain didn't really care. Why? Because in the time trial in Luxembourg, he reduced everyone to also rans, beating the next man by 3 minutes. Miguel Indurain laying the foundations, I think, today for victory in the Tour de France, because he has come with a tremendous time. Fignon will not let him go. 1 hour 19:31 for Miguel Indurain. A killer blow that rocked the rest of the race. Indurain was not quite in yellow, but his deficit was back from over 6 minutes to just 87 seconds. Into the mountains, and Claudio Chiappucci won the stage to Sestriere in great style. But it didn't halt the march of Miguel, who took over the race lead, although the Italian's ride had worried him. Overall, Claudio had climbed into second place and Lino had slipped away to 4th. The Alps continued, and Gianni Bugno was having no luck as he's knocked off his bike by a spectator. And Robert Miller is an unfortunate accessory, while Greg LeMond, never a challenger, abandoned the Tour for the first time. But there was joy for another American, Andy Hampsten, who won the coveted Alpe d'Huez stage. All this, though, was an aside, as Indurain kept on collecting the rewards of being race leader. Chiappucci was a comfortable second, and the rest were in the wilderness. By the final time trial, Indurain was untroubled, winning the test again by 40 seconds. And then the wheels turned for the final time on the Champs-Élysées, where Indurain made sure of his second consecutive victory on the most sacred cobblestones in the world. It was an emphatic win in champion style by 4 minutes and 35 seconds from Claudio Chiappucci. Bugno was third, and Andy Hampsten produced his best finish since 1986 with 4th. So the man is back, and the 1993 Tour de France in Lucon this morning, he signs in the familiar garb, the leader's yellow jersey. Indurain, you know, likens himself to a lizard. He loves the heat, so he should enjoy today's 5-hour stage in a very hot Vendée. The race is 215 kilometers. It rolls over 2 small hills and 3 time bonus sprints. And then it should be a day for the sprinters when we reach Sables d'Olonne. Here's Paul Sherwin to update us with the early part of the race.
11:30 this morning, and the whole field of 180 riders start the first road stage of the Tour de France this year in the streets of Lucon. Miguel Indurain looking resplendent in that yellow jersey, which he seems to be getting used to nowadays. There's a small amount of emotion on his face. He looks quite happy this morning, but sometimes it's difficult to tell whether he's up or whether he's down. The weather forecast for the rest of the day, we're expecting a high temperature of 27 degrees Celsius during the mid-afternoon and a rising wind from the north or northeast, which will give the riders a tailwind towards the finish and could push speeds up to 50 kilometers an hour on the run-in. The first action of the day came at 9 minutes past 12 after 22 kilometers, the bonus sprint point in Fontenay. The sprint easily going to Jamaluddin Abdoujaparov, just ahead of Jean-Paul Van Poppel and the Frenchman Frédéric Moncassin from the Word Perfect team. Immediately after that sprint, a problem for Miguel Indurain. A quick bike change, he even has time to take his 2 bottles and he's on the road again. The mechanic will repair that bike and he'll be back in the bunch in no time at all. 22 minutes past 1, Miguel Indurain safely back in the field, and we have the second climb of the day, the Côte de Poussage. Over the top of the climb, David Cassani from Ariostia takes it easily from the king of the mountains, François Simon from the French Castorama team. Third place went to Per Pedersen, the Danish rider on a Spanish team. At 1:30, a break of 6 riders form at the front on the descent of the Côte de Poussage. The riders in that break are the king of the mountains from yesterday, François Simon, Bruno Kelgialta from the Ariostia team, the Italian, his teammate David Cassani, Per Pedersen, the Danish rider from Amaya, Ronan Pensek, the rider who had the yellow jersey in the Tour de France a couple of years ago in the blue and red jersey from Novemai, and Massimo Girotto, the bald man from ZG Mobili.
And that situation has persevered today. The 6 riders have built a lead of over 2.5 minutes, but the lead is now down as we join the action here with some 33 kilometers to go to the finish. And a lot of teams now have come to the aid of Benesto for very different reasons in this race, because they want their big sprinters up there in for the kill. The sun has shone all day and the 6 riders now are hanging on to a lead which is diminishing by the kilometre, Paul.
They really are speeding up behind. Benesto did an excellent job today keeping the gap just at a reasonable amount and not letting the breakaway go too far. But this year the Tour de France is very different. There are so many teams that have a sprinter in there, so there are so many teams who really want to get the race together to the finish line.
Well, we could be in for a treat here at the finish today on the seaside at Sables d'Olonne, because there you can see the arrowhead of the peloton, always the sign that the riders now are in full flight, hunting for those 6 riders who have been out of their sight for more than 100 kilometers, but looking right up the road from the helicopter in the distance now. You can see them, and I would say the gap no more than 45 seconds. And here's a chance to have a close-up of the breakaway in the blue jersey, the new colours of the Novemai team, a new team this season. That's Ronan Pensek, anxious to keep this breakaway going. Pensek once finished 6th in the Tour de France and 7th the year afterwards, and has worn the leader's yellow jersey before. That's why he wants to keep this breakaway away. Just to bring you right up to date with the time bonuses out on the course, the one at La Roche-sur-Yon was won by Kengialta in the breakaway group from Ronan Pensek and Massimo Girotto, and that win by Kengialta has brought him 6 seconds closer to the yellow jersey of Miguel Indurain. He started the day 31 seconds behind overall. He is the candidate most likely to succeed if the yellow jersey is to change shoulders today. But it looks now as though the breakaway has lost its impetus. They know that the arrival is not too far away now of the big field, and all of the sprinters will soon be back into play.
Well, it was a very good move. This break went early on in the race there, as we saw, and they did build up a lead of over 2 minutes, but now you can see everybody wants to get to the finish line, and they want to get the first bunch sprint of this year's Tour de France, and it really should be exciting because some of the best sprinters of the world are here this year, and they really want to have some good bunch sprints in the Tour de France this year, and maybe we can see Abdoujaparov coming back to his top form again.
Well, a little bit of a yo-yo going on. It's gone out again to 30 seconds. But the Benestos will be happy to see that it's Cipollini's team who are doing a lot of the work at the front now of the main field. Cipollini, who keeps on telling us he's the fastest sprinter in the world, and sensing that on this very first full road race day of the Tour de France, he might have a chance to prove it to us all. Abdou Japarov is one of his main adversaries. They've fought out some great races, especially in the Ghent-Wevelgem Classic, where they've won one each, and Abdou Japarov has been disqualified from it once in favour of Cipollini. So I do think, Paul, if it comes down to a sprint between those two, we're going to see some crashing off the barriers here at the finish.
More than likely. One of the funniest quotes this year, I think, by Mario Cipollini when asked about Abdou Japarov's zigzagging is he said, "I don't really know, because when he moves sideways, I'm always in front of him anyway."
A confident man. Pensek now deciding to try and go clear, and he's saying, look at this, they stopped racing. I don't believe it. A smile at the camera for Ronan Pensek as we look to the right. So Pensek has found now nobody willing to go with him. They've all decided the chase has been too severe. And so the field now are almost on the back of those leading 6 riders. It will shortly be all together, and we'll take a break.
Welcome back to the first road stage of this year's Tour de France, which will finish here in the Sables d'Olonne in a short while. But for those of you new to the sport of cycling, we will try and explain some of the intricacies of the tactics involved over the next 3 weeks. Let's begin by taking a look at basic team formation and some of the tactics involved. Every team is made up of some form of hierarchy. Take the word perfect team. Raul Alcala is the leader, and he will be protected at all times by his colleagues. That protection can be anything from fetching water, pacing him back after mechanical problems, or even giving up their bike for him. Sometimes the whole team will be called upon to protect their boss. They set the pace at the front, discouraging any surprise attacks, as the RMO team do here to keep their man in the leader's yellow jersey. Once the road tilts upwards, it's the turn of the mountain men. Here Miguel Indurain has the protection of 3 climbers. They're the only men who have the strength to accompany him on the big climbs. They set the pace, allowing him to follow in their slipstream. When a team loses its direction due to the retirement of the top man, then policy has to change. Common tactic is to attack, sending one rider on a lone breakaway in the hope of winning an individual stage. The success rate of lone breakaways is low, but chances improve if a group of riders can break clear together and work for the common cause. Although from different teams, they will share the pacemaking, but they will all keep something in reserve for the final kilometres in the hope of stealing the show.
And welcome back, and the riders now are into the sprint town, the last sprint town of the day at Gros Bruy. 193 kilometres covered, and this was the sprint for second place. And it is the yellow jersey himself, Miguel Indurain, who takes second place here ahead of Laurent Jalabert, and a valuable 4 seconds time bonus. The reason for Indurain's concern is that this rider, Zenon Yaskula, has just broken clear. He's got a lead of 25 seconds over the main field, and he's 27 seconds behind overall. So at the moment, Paul, he's right on the edge of taking the yellow jersey. Here's that sprint again, and just look at this for a quality sprint, because on the right of our picture is the world champion Gianni Bugno. In the other white jersey is Claudio Chiappucci. The pink jersey is last year's green jersey competition winner Laurent Jalabert, and Miguel Indurain has taken on some sprinters there and shown them a superb pair of clean wheels. And this now, these last few kilometres of the opening stage of the Tour de France, it's the time when the riders try to nip off the front and spoil it for the sprinters, while the sprinters will pay very close attention to the moves. There's Yaskula, and it looks as though the constant counter-attacking now is going to bring him back into the fold. And I think Indurain might be a little bit relieved about that.
I think so, but it's going to be an exciting couple of days over the next few stages of the Tour de France, with riders fighting it out for these time bonuses. That may change a great deal after the team time trial, which is coming up in a few days' time, when we may see the Once team actually beating the Banesto team to take the lead in this year's yellow jersey. But until then, we've got a few stages to fight it out.
This is the German team from Telekom, and they have Olaf Ludwig on their team, and that's the rider they would like to see up there. Ludwig, the winner of the last stage of the Tour de France in Paris last year. Now we've got an attack. by Rolf Sørensen of Denmark, who rode so well in the time trial yesterday, and until the likes of Indurain and Zula arrived, I really thought he put up the time that would have resulted in the stage win yesterday. He's trying to go clear. Andrea Perron, in his first Tour de France, is chasing him down.
See Rolf Sørensen there making a quick sign with his hand. He wants to get this breakaway organised because he feels that it's a good time in the race. He feels that they've got a chance. He has a teammate with him there as well, Rossioli. If they can get themselves organised quickly, they could maybe stay clear, and Sørensen dearly would like to put the yellow jersey on, because I think once you've tasted the yellow jersey, you want to taste it again and again.
Yes, and he also wants to wipe away the sad memories, because the last time he did wear the yellow jersey at Valenciennes in northern France, he crashed with a kilometre to go and broke his collarbone, and the Tour was over for him.
Johan Museo, the top sprinter, is in there as well. It's a good move for him. It means that he won't have to do all the work necessary for Mario Cipollini if we come to the sprint. Museo, remember, won 2 stages in the Tour de France a couple of years ago, and one of the most beautiful ones, I think, was the one there in Mont Saint-Michel. They've got a good move.
And there's the way to go round the roundabout. If you're by yourself, take the wrong side. If you're in the main field, go the other way. A lovely shot that is. It's Christian Hen having a good dig. In his first Tour de France, no doubt feeling the pull of being watched by so many people, not to mention the millions of television viewers around the world, and he's now going to turn it on in style.
It's nice to see also the little blue jersey there of Charlie Motte, who got into that breakaway. Motte coming back from having broken his hip earlier in the year. Well, not actually the hip, just the joint where the leg goes into the hip bone. It was a really vicious crash, and it's nice to see Motte back and in the front of the Tour de France.
I would second that, Paul. Just a month before the Tour de France started, he really didn't rate his chances very highly of making the team at all. 5 kilometres to go. That's 3 miles to the finish. And there's a whole field, Paul, right down their back wheels.
They really do keep the suspense up until the last minute. About 6-7 minutes to go for the riders now. And you can see the total disorganisation. We had a 10-man group before trying to get themselves organised. Now they're scattered all over the road. The momentum has gone out of the breakaway, and it will come all back together for the sprinters to try again and keep it together for the final.
Now, in the next couple of kilometres, you will see the them and us of the main field of the Tour de France. The them are the sprinters. The us are those that just get out of the way, because they won't take any chances in what is likely to be quite a dicey finish. As Paul has said, there is a tailwind as they come right round the bay here in Sables d'Olonne, and they are going to be hitting speeds quite easily of 45 and maybe even 50 miles an hour. That's 70 to 80 kilometres an hour.
One of the Festina riders, Carrera rider coming to the front here with, it looks a little bit as if that's Franco Ballerini from the GB team. We've got 3 kilometres to go now.
Well, they've jumped, trying to stop the sprinters having the day by continuing the offensives here. They're shortly going to come on to the promenade. 3 kilometres, it's a long way with this wind to try and stay away. You can so easily misjudge it, but at least with the tailwind, you've got a better chance than if you turn into a headwind. If you're out on your own, there they are now onto the approach towards the finishing line, the long, thin line of the 180 riders in this year's Tour de France. Miguel Indurain is still the race leader, but there is a 20 seconds time bonus for the first man over the line.
A little bit of a floating there as they all start to wonder, am I going to lead my teammates out? Where is my sprinter? And that's the time when they all jump away. And again, it's the Italian riders, Areostia. This is one of the Danish riders, Barney Rice, jumping away. Can he surprise the sprinters? They've got to organise themselves quickly now as they come into the final kilometre. It won't be very long. He'll be looking for the red kites. 2 kilometres to go, and he's made a very good move here.
I tell you, this is a great move by Bjorn Rice. He is taking the peloton at the psychologically difficult time as the sprinters thought they had it. He's gone just over a mile from the finish, and he may well pick up the stage win here, but they're going to mass right behind him as he now sees the finish. He's going to force the sprinters to take a very long run at the finishing line here. It's a Carrera rider who's gone across the gap.
I'm not sure if that's not a Castorama rider who's come across there, one of the French riders. It's very difficult to get down in there at the moment because it really is going to be an incredible finish. There's no organisation at the back. These guys have got 20 or 30 metres lead. That's all you need if there can be a slight pause in the chase. But it looks to me as if the chase has come back and we're going to have that big sprint we've been waiting for. You have to look down there for the GB boys, the Lampre boys of Abdou Japarov. and I think they may well have tried it a little bit too early, and it will be the big bunch sprint that we've been waiting for.
I think that's right, because Brian Rice here is being left now to fry in the sun. The rider who has got up to him, I would say almost certainly is from Castorama, but they have been caught at the 1 kilometre to go. Kai, just look into the main field behind now. You'll see the shoulders clashing as they try now to pin the front line here. I can see, I think it's Max Chiandri up near the front too for the Motorola team, but they're trying to delay as long as possible the opening of the sprint, while at the same time not lose their leading positions here. They've washed away the 2 breakaways. They start now to go for the finishing line, and it's the Novo My Riders who are leading out the sprint now. And this will be possibly Eddie Bowman's here, and Marc Sergeant, as Cipollini is trying to come through in the middle as well. But there's dodging of the wheel. Oh, somebody's gone down there in a big crash. There's the crash. A touch of wheels, and our camera's gone with the crash. But now we go back to the front here. There was a desperate touch of wheels there as we see now the race for the line. Yellow Nidam's trying to get mixed up with it to the centre of our picture. But I think we've got Olaf Ludwig, and then Cipollini moving so smoothly through the middle. Ludwig is washed away. Cipollini on the line takes it, and in second place the rider will be Hermann Frison. That's a surprise in second place, but you saw they were all so anxious to get up there. And there, sitting on the floor, is one of the ZG team, and another one of the riders there, one of the team leaders has gone down. That's Abdu Japarov in the thick of it. Well, can you believe that? And there'll be no doubt one or two riders will say he will have caused that because of his reputation, but we've certainly no reason to suspect that at this stage of the day. And here is the sprint now again from the front. As you can see, Cipollini just putting his shoulders down, this big, good-looking man who likes to think of himself as a film star, never looks ruffled, and now he's had what he'll see as the greatest moment of his career. Well, what an incredible finish that was, and Jamaluddin Abdu Japarov, the rider who so nearly lost his life in that crash in Paris a couple of years ago, coming down again in a big sprint finish. But he's crossed the line and he's okay. The result, Mario Cipollini gets the stage win in the Tour de France he's been looking for. He didn't get one last year. In second place, in fact, was Wilfried Nellison in that sprint. Laurent Jalabert was third, Olaf Ludwig was fourth, and Johan Capio was in fifth position. So they call him Super Mario, and today he was just that. He's got the stage win he's promised himself, and he's got it so early on in this year's Tour de France. Overall, though, no immediate change. Miguel Indurain is still in the leader's yellow jersey by 12 seconds now, ahead of Alex Zula. Laurent Jalabert comes up into third place, and Gianni Bugno drops down just a little bit. Another yellow jersey tonight for Miguel Indurain, who keeps his lead in the Tour de France. You know, he went for the small time bonuses today, and now we must ask the question, is he actually trying to lead this Tour de France from beginning to end? All of the results are on page 350 on Fortel, and in our programme tomorrow night we'll bring you information on our new competition, which is for the leader's yellow jersey. Well, tomorrow the riders head out over the Pont Saint-Nazaire and say goodbye to the Vendée, and they'll finish the evening in Vannes. It could be another great day for the sprinters, just like it was today. A battle in that last 500 metres between the fastest men in the world. And when it came down to the finish, it was Mario Cipollini. He calls himself the fastest sprinter in the world, and today, you know, I think he proved it. From France, from us all, goodbye.